Hello, everyone. This is the Global Dialogue podcast from China Decoded, your trusted source for strategic intelligence analysis. An even more explosive development has just emerged. Latest reports indicate that
Zhang Youxia
was detained over allegations that he leaked classified information related to China's nuclear weapons program to the United States. For more than a decade,
Zhang Youxia
wasn't just another senior officer. He was widely seen as the most trusted military ally of China's top leader Xi Jinping. And yet, almost overnight, he disappears from public view. Just a short official statement announcing an investigation into what the system calls serious violations of discipline and law. According to a recent report by the Wall Street Journal, the internal briefing that preceded this announcement contained allegations far more serious than anything publicly acknowledged, including claims involving China's nuclear weapons program. So, the real question isn't just what happened
to Zhang Youxia.
The real questions are, who ordered this move? Why now? And perhaps most importantly, who inside the system is now exposed, and who might be next? Let's treat this like a case file. First, let's establish the official baseline. China's Ministry of National Defense announced that
Zhang Youxia
a vice chairman of the Central Military Commission
and Liu Zhenli,
the chief of the Joint Staff Department, were under investigation. The language was familiar. Severe violations of party discipline and state law. No specifics, no timeline, no mention of national security. On the surface, this looks like another anti-corruption case. But timing matters. Zhang and Liu both failed to appear at a high-level leadership seminar. And within days, the investigation was publicly confirmed. That pace alone raised eyebrows among analysts who closely track elite politics in Beijing. Because when senior figures fall slowly, it suggests planning. When they fall fast, it often suggests urgency. Now let's move beyond the public narrative. According to the Wall Street Journal, citing people familiar with a closed-door military briefing, China's top generals were informed of allegations that go far beyond corruption. The briefing reportedly included claims that Zhang had formed political networks that undermined internal unity, abused his authority within the Central Military Commission, oversaw a procurement system where promotions were allegedly exchanged for money, and then came the allegation that stunned even seasoned observers. According to those sources, Zhang is accused of leaking core technical information related to China's nuclear weapons program to the United States. That allegation, if accurate, represents one of the most severe internal security breaches in modern Chinese military history. But notice something important here. These details were not made public by Beijing. They emerged through external reporting, which raises a key analytical question. If the leadership wanted to signal routine discipline enforcement, why allow such explosive allegations to circulate internationally? Let's slow down and connect the dots. Fact 1. Zhang's investigation was announced immediately after a classified briefing to senior officers. Fact 2. The allegations reportedly tie Zhang to another investigation, that of Gu Jun, a senior figure at China National Nuclear Corporation, which oversees both civilian and military nuclear programs. Fact 3. Following the announcement, thousands of officers linked to Zhang and Liu reportedly had their mobile phones seized, and units across the military were placed on high alert. This detail was highlighted by Lingling Wei, the Wall Street Journal's chief China correspondent, who noted that the scope of the operation suggests this is far from over. So ask yourself, do these steps resemble a narrow corruption probe or a system-wide security sweep? Now we come to the most sensitive question: who actually carried out the arrest? Here, the picture becomes more complex. Different sources across different platforms offer competing timelines and interpretations. Some independent commentators claim that multiple bodies were involved, including military anti-corruption units, internal security forces, and central disciplinary organs. Others, cited by regional outlets, suggest Zhang was formally detained by military investigators several days before the announcement. There are also accounts describing earlier internal alerts, hinting that preparations may have begun well before the public realized anything was wrong. What matters analytically isn't which version is correct. What matters is this: if leadership had full confidence in the military chain of command, it could rely on internal mechanisms alone. If it didn't, it would need external enforcement structures. And that distinction tells us a great deal about trust levels inside the system. Now let's talk about stakes, not adjectives. Over the past 2.5 years, more than 50 senior officers and defense industry executives have been removed or placed under investigation, according to official disclosures reviewed by the Journal. At the start of the current Central Military Commission term, there were 6 active professional officers. Now there is effectively 1. Analysts at institutions like MIT have warned that such a vacuum at the top of a complex military organization cannot be cost-free. This isn't about politics. It's about command continuity, institutional memory, and operational coordination. Even a highly centralized system still depends on experienced professionals to function. So, the question becomes, is this consolidation strengthening control or temporarily reducing capability? Now, this is where the internal conversation inside the system gets very quiet. Who is next? Several commentators have suggested that figures responsible for discipline and political oversight may themselves face scrutiny once the current phase concludes. History shows that in systems under intense internal pressure, today's enforcers can become tomorrow's subjects, especially when loyalty becomes the primary currency. Because when analysts ask, who is next, one name keeps surfacing, not in official statements, but in informed commentary.
That name is Zhang Shengmin.
Let's be very clear about what we know and what we don't.
Zhang Shengmin
Is currently the only active uniformed officer remaining at the very top of the Central Military Commission. He is not a combat commander. His career has been built almost entirely inside the political and disciplinary system of the military. In other words, his primary role has been enforcing loyalty, not leading troops. On paper, that should make him indispensable. But here's where the analysis becomes more complicated. Several independent commentators, including figures with long-standing access to military-adjacent sources, have suggested that
Zhang Shengmin's position
may actually be more exposed than it appears. Why? Because in every large-scale purge, there's an uncomfortable secondary question. Who knew and when?
if Zhang Shengmin's
Portfolio included political supervision and internal discipline, then by definition, he sat close to the fault lines that later exploded. And that creates a structural risk. Not because he's accused of wrongdoing, no such claim has been officially made, but because survival in these moments isn't about innocence alone. It's about whether a figure becomes politically useful once the dust settles. Some analysts describe this phase as the countdown period, not a verdict, not an accusation, but a narrowing of options. And history suggests that once the system moves from removing commanders to examining overlookers, the circle tightens very quickly. Let's focus on system logic, not individuals. If the leadership's primary concern is absolute control, then even the most loyal political officers face a paradox. The more power they once held, the more accountability they eventually attract. That's why some observers argue that the current configuration, a single political officer at the top of a hollowed-out command structure, is inherently unstable. Either new professional commanders must be elevated quickly, or further internal restructuring is coming. And restructuring always creates new vulnerabilities. So when you hear analysts say
Zhang Shengmin
may be entering the countdown, what they're really saying is this. In a system where fear replaces trust, no position is permanently safe, especially the one closest to enforcement. So when we ask, who is next, the answer may not depend on guilt, faction, or history. It may depend on something far simpler and far more unsettling. Who remains useful once control has been reasserted, and who becomes redundant once that control feels secure? That question is still open, but the silence around certain names is getting louder. So let's step back. We have a top general accused through external reporting of compromising core state secrets, a rapid, unusually severe response, a widening investigation touching thousands, and a military leadership structure undergoing unprecedented turnover. This leaves us with one final question, and it's the one that really matters. Is this a system confidently eliminating risk? Or a system revealing just how deeply that risk had already penetrated? That answer won't come from official statements. It will come from who disappears next and who doesn't. That's where we'll leave it for today. I'm Eric Chen. This has been your Intelligence Briefing. We'll continue tracking these signals, carefully and without noise. See you around.